Hello and welcome to another edition of Shoot the Defence on FNX, brought to you by My Sportswear. I'm your host, Stel, and my co-host as ever is a Mr. Yannikis. How you doing, mate?
Not bad, you all right?
You're good. You got the hat on now.
I do. Welcome back, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much. It's not good to be back. Why the hat?
I'm having a bad hair kind of day.
Take it off.
No.
Bottle job. Right, our guest tonight is none other than the gentleman who's been on the show before. It's Chris Windsor from the 5-Year Plan fanzine. How you doing, mate? Great to have you on.
Very well, thanks for having me.
Hey, it's an absolute pleasure. How are you feeling?
A bit deflated after last night. Obviously, when you texted me earlier, asking what wanted to come on, I was a bit like, oh, I really want to relive what happened on Monday night. But, for you, I'll do it.
Oh, thank you very much. Really appreciate it, mate. Really appreciate it. Now, unfortunately, Mr. Rodri Giggs he's AWOL. I don't know where he's gone. He's probably gone to the pie shop. He's probably gone to Asda to get his pie. Hopefully he'll be on. I've sent him the Google Hangouts link, so you might see his pretty face in just a bit. But before Rod comes on, let's talk about Man City, shall we? Because we know that they've practically won the title. They followed up their double demolition of Arsenal, going 18 points clear at the top with a 1-0 victory over Chelsea. And while City's win appeared to be easier than it should have been, many blamed Antonio Conte for being anti-football. Where have we heard that before? Mate, Chelsea adopted a similar style as they did against Barcelona. Difference is, against Barcelona, they got a 1-1 draw, and they were deemed as heroes. It was a heroic display, and they were brave. But whereas on Sunday, they were committing a crime against football, again in inverted commas. Now, can people actually make up their minds? I mean, what did they expect teams to do to play, against City? What do they expect teams to do? City are just steamrolling over everyone.
I just feel it's the fact that they didn't want to attack that was the biggest problem. I mean, like you mentioned, against Barcelona, yeah, they sat deep with men behind the ball, but they attacked Barcelona. They had shots where Willian, I think, hit the post like 3 times or twice, and then he scored a goal, and Hazard had chances. Chelsea played on a counter attack with attacking intent. On Sunday, they played not to get battered, and for a team like Chelsea, who are champions of England, let's not forget that, to go away to the 88. Yeah, we know what a fantastic team City are, but City have got frailties at the back, and you can get at City if you use the ball well or attack them in the right areas. And they're not interested, and they bought Giroud as a target man or somebody, or even have Morata. They've got 2 strikers on the bench, but decide to play Hazard up there. That's another strange one for me. And, for me, the fact is that they did not want to attack. That was my biggest problem. Against City, you can either go 2 ways. You can see either very deep and try and hit City on the counter-attack, or you can actually go for them like Liverpool did and maybe be successful. But as we know this season, not a lot of clubs have been successful. So I just think the fact that they didn't attack was the crime, so to speak.
Fair enough. Well, Chris, Yannick kind of peed on my parade. I was about to ask you about the tactical or the selection decision by Conte, not picking Giroud or Morata and putting Hazard up top. He's done it before, but you'd think that 2 experienced strikers in Morata and Giroud, they could really get at the Man City defence, especially someone like Otamendi, who's quite erratic. Can you explain why he chose to put Hazard in the team?
I mean, having watched Man City this season, where they did struggle was at that centre-half position. When we played Benteke up there, Benteke's had a poor season by his standards, but his ability to move centre-halves around meant that the midfield kind of drops a bit deeper to cover as a result. You watch the Chelsea game where effectively they were trying to play counter by playing a long ball to Eden Hazard. That it was probably the easiest game that Company and Laporte started. So, a new guy into the Premier League is probably not used to the kind of rough and tumble of that big physical striker. I think Costa's probably the only one that's in La Liga at the moment that will probably cause that sort of trouble. If you're going to play against those sort of players, Company, probably not blessed with pace with Hazard. You've got to play the ball on the floor, and therefore you need a midfielder that's going to be willing to run at Man City's midfield and thread those passes through to try and beat, Company on the turn. It's hard to say why Conte decided to do it. I would have gone with Giroud personally, having seen how he can, effectively manipulate a back 2. he's not necessarily going to turn them for pace or something, but he's got that nous right. He recognises he hasn't got that pace, that he's going to put the centre halves where he wants them to on the pitch, and then draw in the likes of Pedro, Willian, or Hazard behind them, and that's how I thought they were going to win. Hazard up front by himself, they got the tactics wrong, trying to lump long ball to effectively to two centre halves, because Hazard was never going to win the ball in the air.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point indeed. Now, gents, I know look, we know how good Man City are, and they're even more explosive when they've got Sané in the team. Is he the best winger in the league?
Oh, by a mile for me. I think him and Mane.
Okay, out of the two.
Out of the two. Mane chips in with more goals than Sané. Maybe if Sané added a little bit more goals to his game, possibly. But I'm going to go Sané due to the fact that he's an out-and-out winger.
God, Sané and Mane. This is really bad. Just imagine, the journalists or someone just coming up with a pun or something. Sané and Mane. It's like some kind of, I don't know, is it like a condiment, I guess?
But would you add Salah in that? Would you count him as
crikey, salad cream.
Okay. For somebody that scores how many goals? Then you'd probably say Salah is, wouldn't you, in current form, or
is he a winger?
That's what I mean. Would you count him as a winger, as a forward?
That's what you said about Cristiano Ronaldo, isn't it? Was he a winger? Was he a forward?
Exactly. So I'd say Sané then, because I feel he's a natural winger. So I'm going to go Sané.
Chris is going to say Wilf Zaha, aren't you, Chris?
Outside of Wilf Zaha, I'd have to agree. I think in terms of playing purely as a winger, definitely Sané. You see how him and Sterling or him and Bernardo Silva, they stretch the pitch and they're effectively playing on the touchline. It's something that not many other teams in that top six are blessed with. Look at the players that kind of are playing on the wing for, United. Sanchez likes to come inside and play a bit more centrally, or Mata, for example. Arsenal have got Mkhitaryan and Ozil who like to come inside. It's very rare now that the top sides have got someone that wants to hug that byline, that touchline for 90 minutes. And the fact that they've got probably two of the best attacking fullbacks when they're fit in Walker and Mendy, you're stretching your team laterally, and I think that's where they're getting a lot of success. You could see teams, when they're shutting up shop. When we beat Chelsea earlier on the season, we kept it very, very compact. Play within the confines of your 18 yards and try and just out muscle and out battle a team, and it's going to be the one that wants it most that wins. You try and do that with Man City and try and keep it compact, they're just going to beat you for pace down the wings. And when you've got one of the best finishers, in the world, in Aguero in the box, they're bound to find a way to break you down.
I think also with City, because the goalkeeper's distribution is so good, they can afford to play the ball at the back, across the back line, force their opponents to press them hard at the pitch. And once the ball gets to Ederson, he'll just find that perfect pass, whether it be to Bernardo Silva, whether it be to Sané, or to De Bruyne, and they kill teams like that. They absolutely kill teams, and
it's because technically they're so good, isn't it? So
they are
in every position.
It's so hard to admit, as a United fan, it's so hard to admit that City are miles better than everyone in the league at the moment. It's so difficult. I mean, look, the performance against Arsenal, in the cup final and at the Emirates the other day. Okay, Arsenal are obviously on their last legs, which is something we'll go into in a moment, but the way that they took them apart in that first half, I honestly believed it could have been like, I don't know, what Germany did to Brazil in the World Cup, or what United did to Arsenal, the 8-2. It was that easy for them, and Arsenal were that bad, but City will destroy you, and that's the fear that I have, because in Europe it can be so open, that the Champions League is so open these days that they can really do some damage. They're obviously going to beat Basel, and whoever they get in the next round will be interesting. But let's move on to City's rivals and Man United, who aren't really known for coming back from behind to win games these days. So when they went 2-0 down against Palace at Selhurst Park, you'd be forgiven if you thought that they stood zero chance of getting anything out of the game. I actually thought it was over when it was 2-0. But Jose Mourinho, he went gung-ho with his substitutions, and they paid off, as we know. And Smalling half the deficit, which was a bit of a surprise for me. Lukaku levelled, and an injury time rocket from Matic gave United the points. Now, we spoke briefly about it before the show. It was a poor first half, better second half. What can you say?
I thought the first half performance was abysmal. It's one of the worst halves I've seen United play for many a year. I thought they were that bad. The passing, I don't think I've seen United pass the ball so badly like they did in the first half. I thought it was embarrassing from players who are supposed to be, really good players. They, 5-yard passes. Sanchez gave the ball away like 20 times in the first half, which was documented. It wasn't just him; it was the whole team. But that's how bad United were first half. So as soon as the second goal went in, you thought, here we go, could be anything tonight, the way United were playing. But I'm going to give him a little bit of credit for the last 20, 25 minutes. They showed hunger, they showed desire, something that they haven't done a lot when they've gone behind in recent games or recent times. And I don't think United deserved to win, even though, it was a great comeback and it was exciting. But Palace deserved at least a point last night. But United, like I said, showed spirit, especially with the Liverpool game coming Saturday. That was a good confidence builder for Saturday.
Well, what I'm going to say about this is something that Theo said on the Your View. That's not a cheap plug, by the way. United are actually finally showing balls. I haven't seen United finish a game this strong in a long time. We spoke about it before. Martial against Newcastle, against Huddersfield, in the cold, in the rain, getting a few kicks every now and again. They didn't like it. Granted, Palace were knackered. You could tell with 20 minutes to go, they were on their knees. But United persevered, and Jose made tactical changes that you felt that you'd expect from a Ferguson team.
Yeah.
He went very gung-ho. Put Jesse Lingard at right wing back. He brought Rashford on. It was a very attack-minded system. But Chris, I mean, in all fairness, as I said before, Palace are really tired even before Lukaku equalised. So, what do you think this defeat will do to your boys psychologically, especially now they've dropped into the bottom three?
It's going to be one of those hard ones. I mean, Hodgson said, these two games, Spurs and United, for a Palace realistic view, was about damage limitation. Personally, last season we got lucky with Chelsea and Liverpool away in order to pull ourselves kind of clear of the relegation zone. This year, we've relied a lot more on getting points against the teams around us. And Hodgson, I think, is more of a realist to recognise that, he put out a team that was going to compete, wasn't expected to win. But those players that are probably 50-50 on playing, do you really want to risk them against Man United than being out for the rest of the season? Or do you fancy them being a bit more 100% and you're letting a Wilfried Zaha run against a Huddersfield defence where he's more likely to cause more damage and get 3 points? Like I was saying to you earlier, a lot of the players on the pitch, I'd say the likes of Martin Kelly, James McArthur, either Van Arnold or Schlupp, were the sort of players that Hodgson would have wanted to bring on at that 70-minute point where the legs were starting to go. Because we're so bereft with injuries, effectively you can make a starting 11 about players that are injured at the moment. He didn't have that luxury to do it. On the bench, you had two guys that we brought in the transfer window that have never played a minute of Premier League football. Damien Delaney, who's probably older than my dad. Chung Young Lee, who's not really favoured, and then a sub goalkeeper. And the only bloke that he brought on was Riedewald, who came from Ajax in the summer as a De Boer kind of signing, a ball playing centre defender that we've kind of moulded into a defensive midfielder because he can pass a bit. So Hodgson's kind of got his 11 players that he trusts, and that's all he can do. And when you're playing two teams like Spurs and United, where you're not going to have much of the ball when they want you, you're only going to have the ball when they're going to allow you to have it. You haven't got a pacey outlet. Your two outlets are Benteke or Sorloth, who both did well yesterday, manipulating the defence, getting their bodies on the line. But, there's not a centre half they're really going to outpace. That as soon as you get the ball back, who you're going to get the ball to, you've got to hope that they win the flick on and then the other bloke wins the second ball in order to have any chance of getting out of your own half. And when you've got a team that's pressing you from the 75th minute onwards, it's just relentless. And, luck wasn't on our side, hasn't been this season. Psychologically, Hodgson's going to be the man, hopefully, to motivate them forward. Chelsea this weekend is going to be another one where if we get anything, it's going to take a mammoth performance. But then come April, 6 games towards the end of the season, all teams we picked up points against. So, we've done well against teams we're expected to do well against, and it's something that Palace haven't done in previous years. We kind of need to ride that confidence. Players coming back, we know we can beat these teams, and a lot of fans have still got faith in Hodgson, which I wouldn't have said to you probably when he was appointed.
Yeah, that's understandable, mate. Now, you mentioned the injuries. I know Palace are without a league win since beating Burnley 1-0 in January, which I think is about 6 league games. Where do you think it's gone wrong? Is it just the injuries, or, as you said earlier, with Hodgson only relying on 11 players? And if that's the case, sorry to extend the question, should he be putting more emphasis on youth?
Well, we brought in Wan-Bissaka, who played right back yesterday and right back against Spurs, a guy that's his first 2 competitive games have been against Tottenham Hotspur and Man United, and he's held his own. He got man of the match on BBC yesterday, so he's clearly, done something to impress Hodgson in training. We've kind of gone from one extreme to the other. The ball was brought in and was told in his kind of initial meeting, right, I want you to play youth. And then we were seeing, youth players that we'd never really heard of unless you'd gone to an under-18s game, featuring on the bench and making starting appearances. And, while you applaud that, because Palace traditionally has been built on youth, look at the players that we brought through: Victor Moses, Nathaniel Klein, Zaha, who's still with us, those, Ben Watson, all have kind of played Premier League football very, very recently. You expect that to happen, but it's whether the players are ready. And I don't think Hodgson would want to risk a player being turned inside out in his natural position. He would rather play someone who's more adept at Premier League football playing out of position. And you can see why he wants to do that. He's obviously an experienced manager, and the last thing he would want to do is completely ruin someone's career by hanging them out to dry for 5 games. You try and reduce who's going to be a scapegoat as well. I think if you put a youngster in, even at somewhere like centre-back, where we have been short this season, against the likes of Harry Kane and Romelu Lukaku, even the best centre-backs in the league can easily get turned apart by those two on their day. You put in a youngster that's never played a Premier League minute, they can always scar him for life. So failings in not this transfer window, the one before, probably the one before that, failing to bring in a goalkeeper, being stuck with Wayne Hennessy and Julian Speroni is something that Palace fans will constantly go back to. Failing to sign a second striker until the window that's just gone, leaving Benteke as our only fit striker for the start of the season. Lack of depth on the wing. If Zaha and Townsend's out, you're playing someone like Van Aanholt or Schlupp, who's naturally a left back, playing as a left winger. So yeah, they'll do you a job defensively, but are they going to skin any fullback in the league? Probably not. And it can go. You can look further back. That since we got rid of Pardew, we've not really had a plan going forward. We thought the ball would revolutionise the way we played football, and he lasted 4 games because he wasn't afforded a budget to bring in players that could play a style of football that he wanted to. You then bring in Hodgson, expecting to do some firefighting, get him up to the January transfer window, where actually we were looking pretty good. Come, the end of December, a strong 8-9 games unbeaten. But then you don't bring in a goalkeeper. You lose the likes of Dan and Punch into season-long injuries and don't really replace them with ready-made players to come in. Yeah, we signed a centre-half and a centre midfielder, but none of those have played a minute of Premier League football. The problems don't necessarily lie at Hodgson's level. I think they go further back, board level, willingness to invest. A lot's been made about new stand and renovating the stadium. Having American owners that none of us have really seen or heard from, compared to our chairman that is actually quite vocal, was willing to go on TalkSport and defend if his honour's ever questioned and all of that. So there's something not quite right at the top. And Hodgson's doing a very good job at the moment of just trying to fight these fires. And even if we go down, I'd like to see him have a season with us in the Championship, because I think he'd work wonders with what we've got. It's questioning some of the players as well. How much do they really want to be in a relegation battle? you saw on the likes of Benteke, Mamasako, Cabaye, all these players that have had Champions League experience and fighting at the top end of the Premier League. Are they the players that are really going to drag you out of a relegation battle, willing to put their bodies on the line, willing to sacrifice personal glory, you know, in the last 5 minutes of a game to hold out? It worked last year, but do they really want to do it again this year? And I wonder whether they've been sold kind of a false dream when they signed, because they, you know, first thing that Steve Parish tweeted at the end of the last season when we stayed up against Hull was, we've got 79 days to crack the top 7. You're looking now, you know, we've got how many days left in the season? Probably about the 60 days left to try and crack finishing 17th. You know, some of the signings Pardew made was with the view of us becoming a Champions League team. You know, I think, was it December 15? We finished 5th at Christmas. The year we got into the FA Cup final, and it just went downhill from there. Because, you know, he believed his own kind of ego, wasn't willing to respect the point of famous Allardyce saying, wasn't willing to change his tactics for the team. He thought the way that he put out the team was going to get us a victory or the points rather than combating an opposition style. And I wonder whether that's kind of still ingrained in some of the players.
What do you think?
I think Palace will stay up, to be honest.
Yeah,
I really do.
Because
Yeah.
there's 3 teams worse off than them.
Yes, I think Hodgson has done really well since he's gone there. He's done a decent job for what he's had. Palace have had a lot of injuries as well, and a lot of bad luck lately as well. I mean, I'm going to flip it. I'm going to think the performance last night will give him confidence in a sense of Hodgson will go in there and go, if you can go and do that to Man United, if you can hold Tottenham until the 90th minute, you can beat your Bournemouths, you can beat your Huddersfields around you, and get the points and stay up. So yeah, they're going to be deflated and, you know, being 2-0 up and losing the game, but I don't know. I think Hodgson will keep him up. I really do.
Well, Stoke and West Brom are their 2 final games this season,
and they're 2 worse teams than Palace. So yeah, I think they'll just about stay up, Palace.
There you go. Vote of confidence there.
Get things like that right, don't I?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, you got Zola right with Birmingham.
Yeah, I do.
Anyway, Man United faced Liverpool at the weekend in what could be a really cagey encounter. Now, a 2-0 win against Newcastle moved Klopp's men into second, albeit temporarily. And our pick for player of the season, Mo Salah, got on the score sheet again. Mate, are you surprised with how much of an impact Salah has made at Liverpool? I mean, I don't remember him being prolific at all at AS Roma.
He wasn't that prolific. He was better, of course, at Roma than he was at Chelsea. He improved a lot as a player. He wasn't that prolific, as you said. I'm not surprised in the sense of Salah's a very good player. He always has been. You know, even at Basel, he was good. That's why Chelsea paid the money to get him. It didn't work out at Chelsea for whatever reason, but it doesn't mean he's a bad player. It's like De Bruyne. Didn't work out at Chelsea, went to Wolfsburg, went to City, and now look at him. It's like he's a world-class player. Yeah, it does surprise me the fact that he's scored as many goals. But again, the style Liverpool play and Klopp allows his attacking players to go and express themselves. You're seeing the benefits of him, and you know Salah's enjoying his football, and things are going for him. I mean, next season, second season, can he sustain? Is always the second season is always the most difficult one because defenders start to know that you're going to cut inside on your left foot and you're going to curl it into that corner. So they start reading you a lot more. So next season will be interesting. But for me, I know I mentioned this before. De Bruyne will probably get Player of the Year because City are going to win the league, and he's been fantastic. But he's got a lot of world-class players around him. Salah doesn't. So and Salah coming from Italy as well, and the amount of goals he scored, I personally believe he should be Player of the Year. Can't believe I said that about Liverpool.
Hey, we're fair.
We're fair. We're honest. Absolutely.
We try to be. Right. LOL moments here. Things go from bad to worse for Arsenal following their 2-1 loss at Brighton. Now, goals from Lewis Dunk and Glenn Murray moved Brighton up to 10th, condemning Arsenal to yet another defeat on the road. Now, Chris, I know you won't like me mentioning this guy, but Glenn Murray, we spoke about him on the show the other week, and his goal makes it 6 Premier League goals in 2018. Only Aguero and Salah actually have more goals than him in this calendar year in the league, that is. Now, without making Murray sound like some sort of a thug, Arsenal is exactly the sort of team he likes playing against, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, when he was at Palace, he was the sort of player that would thrive on a centre half that didn't really want to go near him. And you see Mustafi and Koscielny, wouldn't say the strongest centre halves, either kind of mentally or physically in the Premier League. Murray is a very, very clever centre forward. He recognises his limitations more than he recognises his strengths. He's not one for pace. He's not one that's going to do 1,000 step overs, like a Zaha Balassi that we were used to. But he's very intelligent in winning fouls. He knows when he can get the referee to be on his side. I think I listened to his post-match interview by Sky Sport when he got his man of the match, and they were saying, you're 34 and you're still scoring goals. What's the secret to success? And he says, well, no matter what league you play in, the goals are in the same position. And he keeps it that simple. He knows where to be in the box. He's obviously built a relationship with Knockaert, Solly March, Gross throughout the season that they trust him. That they put the ball in the right area in the 6-yard box. He's got a fantastic leap to him. He's willing to move and push defenders out of the way to get himself in a chance to score. And teams like Arsenal, where they're not willing to throw their bodies on the line, to block his runs, to kind of challenge that ball in the air, is where he thrived. But he was doing that for us about 3-4 seasons ago against Arsenal. I think he had one of his best games coming back from injury. We brought him on for 20 minutes and we were, I think, 2-0 down, and we'd got it back to 2-1 with him then hitting the post again in the 91st minute, such as Palace's luck, obviously. And he seems to do it whenever it's kind of a World Cup or a Euro season as well. So he's still trying to knock on that England door, bless him.
That's right. And Let's talk about Arsenal, because we can't have a show without mentioning Arsenal. And I want our viewers, anyone that's watching live on Facebook and on YouTube, to chime in on this. Have Arsenal hit rock bottom? I mean, it's not even funny anymore, is it?
Arsenal TV ain't funny anymore, to be fair. It used to be. There's a part of me that actually feels sorry for them. I really do. There's the proper Arsenal football fans who understand about football. That's the ones I feel sorry for, because they're the ones that obviously care about their club, and I don't know where to start from them, to be honest. If I'm going to start from the team, I can pick probably 9 players out of the Arsenal starting 11 that are not good enough for Arsenal. The only one I can possibly make an exception is Ramsey on his day, and maybe Ozil on his day, possibly. Aubameyang, you can't judge him just as yet. He's only just arrived. The back four certainly not good enough. Monreal may be on merit because he's done half decent. Is that because everybody else is bad and Monreal looks good? The rest, for me personally, as a football person, they're not good enough for the size of Arsenal Football Club. Arsenal fans, like you said, listening could agree or disagree with me. It reminds me a bit of when Mourinho came in with Van Gaal, where he looked at the squad and Mourinho was like, have I got this to work with? Now, if the new manager comes in at Arsenal, he's going to need at least £1 billion to fix it. Where's he going to start? Well, who's he going to keep out of that team? He's going to need a new back four. Definitely needs a goalkeeper. He needs possibly 2 holding midfield players for me. Wide players are not good enough. There's massive problems at Arsenal, massive, and the disarray with the fans, as you know, that Wenger in, Wenger out, that needs to be addressed somehow as well. It'll be funny, like we mentioned Arsenal before it. Don't be surprised if they win the Europa League and Wenger gets a 2-year deal.
Yeah. Well, Joe Usella from the fantastic podcast Low Limit Football has mentioned Arsenal. He says Arsenal have not hit rock bottom yet. When they renew Wenger this summer, then they hit rock bottom. And you can see it happening, can't you? I mean, I'm not saying that it is going to happen. I've always said, in fact, when he signed that 2-year deal, I said he's only going to give him 1 more season. But you can actually see it happening, can't you? You can see them winning the Europa League, and for some strange reason, they're going to offer him a new contract. But a lot has been said. I mean, I don't really pay too much attention what's been written on Twitter or whatever's in the press about players having meetings, and some players apparently Koscielny broke down crying because his children take the mick out of him. I don't know how true that is. But you hear all sorts of stories, and
Ramsey's the rat or something at the moment, or something.
You hear all these things. I mean, Chris, you support a club that's had numerous managers over the years. I can think of how many off the top of my head. You had Hodgson, you've had De Boer, you've had Pardew, you've had Lombardo,
Pulis, Holloway,
and so on and so forth. What do you make of what's going on at Arsenal, mate? Because let's be 100% honest. I don't mean to patronise you in any way, but you support Crystal Palace. I remember Palace in the 1990 FA Cup final. I remember Crystal Palace in the Cup final a couple of years ago. Your side's not used to winning major trophies, but then you've got Arsenal fans who seem very, how shall we say, spoiled. What's your take on it?
I mean, the Arsenal that I remember growing up was the kind of the invincible era, and you look at that team, you look straight down that spine, and that spine, instigated fear in whoever they were playing. I remember us playing them the next season, and Henry, you thought was always going to score. They had the midfield of Vieira or something like that, players that no matter who you put out, you always felt those players would get the better of you because they wanted it. They fought for that shirt as such. A lot of the players that they've got now, I don't like using this term for all of them, but they're kind of luxury players. And you think you could have one of them in your team that you can carry along, and that one game in 5 they provide a spark. And we've seen it at Palace that a few players become luxury players, but they've got a core around them that actually allows them to thrive. It worked for us years ago with Darren Ambrose. He felt he wasn't very good defensively, but because he had a core around him, it allowed him to flourish. They seem to have too many of those types of players, too many similar players, but no one that, when they're 1-0 down against Brighton, is going to knock heads together and go, "We're Arsenal Football Club. What on earth is going on here, guys? Look, come on. Follow me and lead." Them got a Vieira, them got an Adams, a Campbell in that side, and you get the better of them in the first 15 minutes. It all goes to pot. An observation as well is, look at Wenger. You see Mourinho yesterday running up and down the touchline shouting. I know people make jokes about Klopp's theatrics, but he's heavily invested in, what the players are doing on that pitch. He's effectively the 12th player on the pitch because every time they miskick the ball, he's angry. Every time they score, he's jubilant. Wenger's heart really in it at the moment. He just looks like a defeated man every time he sits in the dugout. You never see him out barking orders, being that kind of leader that Arsenal desperately need, because they haven't got one on the pitch. And, when they're 1-0 down, they look over to the dugout and, you'd expect to see your manager shouting and trying to G you up. And you've got a man fiddling with his, stupid long trench coat, head in hands, and, naughty players that, he's done very well to last 20 years. He's done very well in those 20 years. The Invincible season is something we still talk about now, despite it being almost 15 years old. But there seems to be, like there are with most managers, a natural point for them to go, "I've done as best I can here." And it's hard to see him now going with the kind of respect and grace he probably would have deserved if he went a season or two ago. Finishing with a FA Cup win would have been ideal. Yeah, we've had a rough patch, but here's a trophy. We're finishing with an FA Cup. It's a good way to bow out. Now's the right natural time to bring in a successor. You've got an entire summer to plan. You've got a window to go for. If he'd announced it a couple of games before as well, they could have probably sought a replacement like Chelsea did with Conte before the Euros, that they could then start making transfer plans. And then you can start bringing in those players that a new manager is going to need early on, because if they bring in someone now, you've got a shorter transfer window because it shuts at the start of the season, and you've got a World Cup to contend with. That a new manager is going to only probably have about 40 days to meet the squad, implement his own style, bring in new players. Is that going to be enough, or is that then going to be, further pressure on him because he's unable to, bring in those players? And such is the kind of volatile nature of football at the moment. Is he going to be afforded the same luxuries as Wenger?
That's a very fair point. I mean, we've spoken about this on numerous occasions when it comes to Wenger and his tenure at Arsenal. And we all agree that his time should have been, as you said, when they won the FA Cup. And this just reminds me of when Sir Alex Ferguson announced his retirement at United, and there was a major rumour that it was going to be Ericsson taking over, and then that kind of made Ferguson decide, no, I'm not. I've changed my mind because I don't want him touching the club. Now I'm thinking, well, is Wenger staying because he wants full control? Is he this dictator that a lot of Arsenal fans say he is? I mean, he doesn't look like Mugabe to me. Doesn't act like him either. It just seems very strange how he's happy to stay in the job and take that flack and take the abuse. I don't know whether it's a pride thing. I don't know whether it's just Wenger just being Wenger. Maybe it's old age. I don't know what it is, but if I were him, it's something obviously isn't right. I don't know whether, again, maybe the board has said to him, stick it out for one more season until we find a successor. You hear about other managers linked with jobs. If you get a manager a year later, it means you're paying less to buy them out of their contract. So I don't know whether it's that. There could be so many different factors that we don't know the answer to, but it's going to wage on and on and on, and it's taking up too much of our time.
Did you see Marco Silva at Arsenal?
No, I couldn't, because you know what? People talk about Marco Silva being this fantastic head coach, and he did quite well at Watford, but he's been sacked from his last 3 jobs.
Watford,
Olympiacos
and Hull.
Sacked from his previous 3 jobs. Now, if you can get sacked once, you can say, okay, well, it's the David Moyes factor where, he stepped into the job, Man United job, and it wasn't cut for him. And then he went to Sociedad, gave that a try, failed. Then he went to Sunderland, failed. He's at West Ham. And an interesting stat here is that I think his last 8 or 9 games, he's had the same points as Bilic's last 8 or 9 games for West Ham. So they haven't really progressed. So I don't know. But let's move on. Let's talk about our other news section, because we could go on forever talking about Arsenal, and we're going to bore our listeners. In fact, if you want more about Arsenal, listen to the Chronicles of a Gooner podcast, where Harry's got some fantastic guests, and they discuss all things Arsenal. So that's a perfect show for you guys, not us who don't support Arsenal and probably don't care as much as these guys do. Right, in other news, sad news here. Serie A was rocked at the weekend with the news of Fiorentina captain Davide Astori's death. Now, the 31-year-old former Milan and Cagliari's passing has come as an understandable surprise. And is now being investigated as culpable homicide, meaning that prosecutors are actually looking to see if this could have been foreseen. Now, to die at 31, there's no age, but what can you tell us about Astori, the footballer, because you know more about Serie A than I do, so.
It was a very respected player in Serie A. It was a neat and tidy player. It was always like a 7 out of 10 player every week. He wasn't,
Mr. Reliable.
Mr. Reliable, yeah. He wasn't somebody that wanted all the glory. He was a family man, so to speak. Started his career, like you said, at Milan as well. And I think Buffon gave him like the biggest, compliment and stuff like that. He was like one of the nicest, guys. I mean, we're not talking about his football now, about him as a person. Apparently, his personality was like brilliant. And to be fair, to be the captain of Fiorentina, Fiorentina are not the club that they used to be, but it's still a decent achievement. So of course. And like I said, it was a neat and tidy player, and for that to happen, it was, we're hearing all sorts of things that maybe it was a heart attack or a cardiac arrest, they were saying, or so. I don't know if we're going to get to the truth out of that, but to lose anybody at that age is it's not nice at all. Of course it is.
Yeah, and obviously our thoughts go out to his family and whatnot.
Definitely.
Right, Leo Messi grabbed his 600th career goal in Barca's 1-0 win over closest rivals Atletico Madrid. Now, with 11 games left, Barcelona could actually write more history by becoming the only team in La Liga to go the whole season unbeaten. Jens, I'm going to put this in. Chris, why don't you answer this one, mate? I know Barcelona's toughest game is actually Real Madrid, which is on the 6th of May, I believe. If the title is wrapped up and Barcelona are still in Europe, then that's the only possible loss I can see. But they'll go unbeaten the whole season, won't they?
It's hard to fancy any team against them at the moment, apart from that Madrid game. And then it's all going to be who is going to be around in the European Cup competitions at the time. They're just the thing with La Liga is obviously it flips between those two, and occasionally Atletico comes in. But to lose arguably one of their best players in Neymar and to almost improve and go on this fantastic run is kind of a credit to the players that they've got. I mean, Messi, I think we're all blessed the fact that we're watching Messi and Ronaldo playing in the same era, in the same league sort of thing. It's hard to think of a pairing like that in any other league at the moment. And yeah, they're such a fantastic team to watch that they won't allow themselves to be beaten and become complacent in the run-up. They'll want that accolade, a bit like the Invincibles did with Arsenal those years ago. They won the title early on, but it was that pride they're playing for, and the players that are playing are so professional, kind of so dedicated that they want to play every single game, whether it be Champions League or La Liga or something, because the chance of winning it all. And they'll know that Real Madrid will come back a whole lot stronger next year. Whether Zidane's at the helm or not, Real Madrid are going to do some serious investing in the summer. Rumours about them basically Ronaldo going and then basically remolding the entire squad. Barcelona will want to seize every opportunity they can get to get one over Real.
Right.
Do you think they're going unbeaten?
I think so. That game against Real Madrid, it obviously could go either way, but if it means them winning La Liga, going the whole season unbeaten, doing something that Real Madrid haven't even done, I can't see them losing.
I think they'll slip somewhere.
Yeah?
Yeah, I really do.
Where?
I don't know. Even that performance against like Las Palmas and Getafe and things like has been too close to call. I mean, like you said, they're still in Europe. And don't forget, the closer they're going to get to go unbeaten, the harder it's going to become, because you can start getting nervous. And don't forget, there is going to be a club out there that's going to want to beat them to say, I was the team that beat Barcelona that year. And it could be Real Madrid. Imagine Real Madrid, the only club to beat Barcelona. Take the gloss off their title win, wouldn't it?
Could happen. Can't see happening, but right, okay. Roma's 4-2 win at Napoli followed a last-gasp win for Juve at Lazio, blowing the Serie A title race going to Jonathan Wass mode again. Title race wide open. Now, I'm going to send this over to you because you probably disagree with me, but this title hunt, it was fun while it lasted, wasn't it? We know what's coming. Juventus are going to walk in, aren't they?
Never know. You
don't even sound convinced.
I don't. The reason why I don't sound convinced is because Sarri's never won anything, and Napoli haven't won anything. There you go. So, in a sense, Juventus have been there, done it. How many times? Would it be 6 years in a row if they win it this year?
Yeah, seventh.
So, they know what it's all about. And I think on Saturday, the fact that they went to Lazio, who Lazio beat Juve at the start of the season, and to go and beat them in the 93rd minute showed that they've still got the hunger to go and win that title. Absolutely. And the way that Roma opened Napoli up on Sunday night, I thought Napoli were really poor defensively, to be honest. And Edin Dzeko had a bit of a field day on Sunday night, didn't he?
Yeah, Dzeko got goals number 49 and 50, which means he's now scored 50 goals in Serie A, the Premier League, and the Bundesliga. Yeah, how's that for a record? Edison Cavani, Mr. 100 goals in La Liga, Liga. Right, let's quickly talk about Champions League because Real Madrid, they beat Paris Saint-Germain 2-1. They're through. Did you expect anything else?
No, even when the tie, I didn't understand how PSG were the favourites to win it just because Neymar went there. The competition. I couldn't get it personally. The fact that they've never done it before, they were playing Real Madrid as well. I mean, I personally couldn't understand. Even Man City. I know Man City have blown everybody, but they've never won it. You still got Barcelona in competition, Real Madrid. The fact that they've been there, done it, I personally make them more favourites than Man City. So, and Real Madrid, to be fair, realistically, is the only trophy they've got to play for this season for the, for the blunder that they've done in La Liga this season. So, I didn't see anything different there. And Liverpool, we all knew that they were going to beat Porto, especially after what happened in the first leg. So no surprises to that.
Chris, do you fancy Liverpool's chance of winning this tournament? They seem to be going about their business quietly.
It's one of those scenarios that favour Liverpool. You look at the time they won it years ago, 2005, beating Milan. They weren't really favoured throughout that. I think where they've done well in Premier League is against teams that have not necessarily respected their attacking intent. Teams that have tried to come at them and left themselves exposed at the back. They've probably got arguably the best front three in the Premier League. It's whether they will come up against a Madrid and a Barcelona and will be afforded the same opportunity, because going forward, they've got no issues. It's how they cope defensively. I know Van Dijk's come in, but has he found the correct partner to play with? Is Matip, Lovren, whoever they decide to play, best for that? I think Robertson's been very good at left back, and he's probably quite well suited in kind of running up and down the wing, much better than Moreno. But there's still kind of inconsistencies, especially in that centre of midfield. I know they've been raving about Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain having a couple of good games, but you look at the teams they're coming up against, they've got world-class centre midfielders. And I think that's where the majority of the battles are going to be won in this Champions League. Henderson and the Ox versus the likes of Kroos and Modric. There's only going to be one winner in that game, even if they have, the game of their lives. You've only got Kroos and Modric to be at 75% to kind of split a Liverpool defence that's very fragile apart. What I think they'll need to do is go to a team away from home first and get that 1 or 2 away goals on the counter attack, and then go to Anfield and almost try and do what they've done pretty well. What they did against Man City. If you score 3, we're going to score 4, and try and match them with the attacking intent. The issue I've seen them have this season is where teams sit back and invite them to try and break them down. It's what kind of team they come up against. I think they'll probably do better against like a Man City if they drew them again, knowing that they've got weaknesses to beat them. Whether Juve get through tomorrow and are defensively resolute, how they try and break down a team that's willing to allow them to attack and almost counters against them, plays them at their own game, is where they will probably struggle going forward. But it'd be nice to see, if they go through, that goals are going to be involved, and as a neutral, because Palace are not going to be that Pardew Champions League team, that fake dream that you were selling us all those years ago. You want to watch entertaining football in the Champions League, regardless of who it is. And because we're playing them in a couple of weeks as well, hopefully they'll have all their minds focused on that, and we can nick a 1-0 home win.
He got his fingers and toes crossed in this one. Right, let's end our show with a brief story, which we always do. We try to add a bit of comedy value in our shows. And David James replaced René Moulenstein. That's not what's funny. He replaced René Moulenstein as head coach of Indian side Kerala Blasters in January. And I don't think Dimitar Berbatov is too happy with David James's coaching methods. In fact, he put up an Instagram story with the hashtags worst wannabe coach ever, worst tactical advice, and chip the ball to striker's chest and we take it from there. WTF, who plays like this? I know that Sean Dyche was 11 games without a win for Burnley, and they got their win against Everton, and that was kind of swept under the carpet. But it's surprising how this has been brought out in public. Chris, what do you make of Berbatov's comments? Because let's be 100% honest, man. I mean, David James, I remember when he was at Watford, he was more into painting and all that kind of stuff. I didn't think they'd end up playing for Liverpool and England and then coaching in India. And this isn't a knock on the guy, but Berbatov's comments seemed quite harsh, don't you think?
Well, when I first saw the picture, I thought that West Brom had signed Berbatov, and he was talking about Alan Pardew. It seems a strange place. I think, did Peter Taylor go out there as well? And there's a couple of English managers that have gone out to manage in this kind of Indian Super League. It strikes me as similar to kind of how China's adopting the football model and how India runs its cricket model, in the fact that let's just get good individuals with big names to sell shirts as opposed to trying to assimilate the team. I feel if you're a young coach, which David James is, he's he hasn't got that managerial experience. Trying to manage those sort of egos on a pitch is going to be difficult for him. He's probably got his own way that he thinks that the team should play. And if you've got players that have obviously won more than you, which Berbatov has, he's probably, he's probably performed better in the Premier League or, on an international stage, with the Champions League, better than what David James did, that he strikes me as the player that would probably want to undermine. And why is Berbatov out there compared to why is David James out there? David James is obviously trying to get a foothold in management. No one in the UK wants to employ him. It's a bit like, Tony Adams going to Azerbaijan, for example. They want to manage somewhere. Is Berbatov out there because he's completely invested in the Indian team he's signed for, or is this, one big payday for him, top up his kind of, Gucci collection as a result? Yeah, it's hard to say. That kind of league and going to manage in China as well is probably not the best place to learn your trade. I think David James is better off dropping all the way down the leagues, finding somewhere in the Vanarama North or South, where you've got a squad of 16 or 18 that's sole desire is to play football and will listen to you because you are David James, you have played for England, will do what you tell them to do. And if then you fail and then people criticise you, then, it's your own coaching methods. I think now it's probably a clash of egos and Berbatov really not listening, really not caring.
Yes, it's interesting in this league because there are names like John Gregory, who's coaching out there, Steve Coppell, Avram Grant, and Robbie Keane is actually a player coach for
Atletico Kolkata.
Yeah, Atletico Kolkata, who actually I think they got the highest attendance. I think they got 70,000.
I think they won the league last year, didn't they?
Yeah. That's an interesting one. I don't know. I mean, how did he get the? I don't know.
It's just all
done on names. Yeah.
It's the names. Yeah, that's right. They're trying to track names and.
Well, Anelka was a head coach out there. Malouda played out there. I think Roberto Carlos played out there. Forlan played out there. Katsuranis played out there. A lot of
out there, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah. So, yeah. It's look. The whole thing is just.
Wes Brown scored the other day, and he was there
for Kerala.
Yeah.
Okay.
Scored a header.
Nice. Good old Wesley. There you go. But yeah, the whole thing just seems quite petty, isn't it? I mean, Berbatov was 38 now, 39, and David James is not that much older than him. You'd thought that he's got Berbatov should have a little bit more professionalism. I know that he's leaving the club, isn't he? I think their season's over now. It's only a couple months old.
Might be just a personality clash as well,
Well, listen, Berbatov probably, I think he smokes about 40 fags a day for Andy Garcia. Because he could probably do what he wants, to be honest. But listen, this, as you said, Chris, it's probably a personality clash. You got one guy that's played for Liverpool. You got one guy that's played for Man United. I don't know whether that makes a difference, but you never know. You just never. Well, what do you make of it? I'm sure we've seen other incidents where players have had pops at managers. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Gareth Bale does that to a certain Wales manager. Puts a few hashtags. He would deserve it.
I think the only surprising thing about this is it became public. The fact that Berbatov did that. I mean, it happens all the time where players and managers, don't agree with tactics or whatever else and this and that. It's not something that's surprising. The only thing is just the fact that Berbatov kind of came out public and blasted David James. But to be fair, David James hasn't done really anything since he's been there. Kerala have been awful. So,
but he turned them around. I think when he joined,
they haven't been good this season. So maybe Berbatov just. I don't know, maybe it was a publicity stunt. I don't know. Maybe just, look, Berbatov's still alive. He's still playing football. Look, and everybody wanted to hear him, I guess. It is a strange one, though. I think so.
Oh, well, I'm sure there've been worse ones. Right, that's it for our show. It's been quite eventful. Thank you, Chris, for joining us on the show, buddy. Would you like to give our listeners your Twitter handle so you can get in contact?
Yeah, you can follow me at Sleeping Winter, and also for any Crystal Palace related content, make sure you follow the 5 Year podcast.
There you go. It's a fantastic podcast, and everyone who's a Palace fan, even if you're not a Palace fan, it's great to know. You hear fans' views, fans' perspectives. It's a great listen. What's your Twitter?
Yannickis J.
At Yannick J.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. And you're tweeting a lot these days, which is good.
Yeah,
Raising your own profile. One day you'll have your own show.
never know.
Never know.
No, I couldn't do it without you.
Oh, that's the nicest thing you ever told me. I can't say anything else you ever told me. But, yeah, right. That's it for us this week, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We're on Facebook. Please join the page. We went live today. We had some very good feedback, some very good comments. I'd like to thank everyone for watching. Please follow our friends over at FNX Network at FNX Network on Twitter. We're also on Twitter at Shoot the Fence. And that's it. So until next time, take it easy.